Christmas Farm by Marilyn Ray and illustrated by Barry Root. Wilma had grown petunias and sunflowers for years. She was ready to graduate to something else. But she couldn't decide what. When snow fell on the last sunflower stalks, Wilma still didn't know how to make her garden different next year. And now there was Christmas to think of. On her back hill, Wilma had looked in July for the right tree to cut in December. Her Christmas began when she went for the one she had chosen and brought it home to her parlor. But before she wrapped the green branches with lights, she thought of people who had no back hill. Where would they find such a fine tree? Then Wilma knew. She knew what to plant instead of petunias. She needed a shovel, string, scissors, time. She needed good brown earth. She had them all. So Wilma ordered 62 dozen small stars of balsam for spring. She was pretty good at counting by dozens. When she made donuts on Saturday mornings, she always made a dozen. But 62 dozen was a lot of trees. She would need help setting them out. She would need Parker. Parker lived next door. He was 5. Like the seedlings, every 4th of July, Wilma and Parker made a parade, waving flags and banging on pots and pans. At Halloween, they made jack-o'-lanterns. Parker had helped Wilma grow sunflowers. He would help again. As soon as the ground was warm, Wilma and Parker began. Using balls of string, they measured 24 straight rows. Then they dug 62 dozen holes, and they planted 62 dozen trees, 744 trees. Will they be ready by Christmas? Asked Parker. No, said Wilma. The trees had to grow through the summer, the fall, the winter, the spring, and then they had to grow some more. While they grew, Parker told the trees about Christmas. He knew all about Christmas. To keep the grass from covering their trees, he and Wilma weeded around each one. Then October's leaves blew across the trees and November's snow began to fall. Before winter's end, some of the trees were lost to mice that ate their stems and roots, but 719 remained. The young trees woke with the spring, and again Wilma and Parker weeded around them, and Parker told them things. Now that he was 6, he knew even more than when he was 5. On summer nights, brown moths fluttered among the trees, fireflies flickered above them, and whip-poor wills called across the darkness. Then fall came again, and winter. During the long cold months, some of the trees were lost to deer that dug in the snow to chew the sweet green tips, but 673 survived. When Parker came to help with spring chores, Wilma had been shopping for a tractor. She chose a blue one with a horn, though there was nothing to honk at except the sky, the ring of mountains, yellow dandelions, and Parker. Wilma let him try the horn. Parker would have liked to drive the tractor too, but 7 wasn't old enough for that. The trees were not old enough either. When Christmas came, they were still too small to cut, so they slept through another winter. Again, some were lost to mice and deer, storm and ice, But when spring came, there were 652 left. Wilma mowed. Parker ran among the rows, counting. 652 was a big number to count, but Parker could do it now that he was 8. All summer, bobolinks decorated the trees with song. Then fall came, winter came, snow came. Moose cracked some of the branches and chewed them, but 617 trees survived. That summer the trees were 9. It was time to shape them. Wilma and Parker worked together. Now that he was 9, Parker could reach almost as high as Wilma. Some of the trees they left as their branches had grown, for people who like trees that way. The rest they trimmed, round and round, for people who like them that way. Soon the trees would be Christmas trees. One more winter, the trees slept under snow. Only 2 were lost to ice, 11 to moose and 7 to deer. But 597 remained. It was a busy spring for a boy and for trees turning 10. Parker and Wilma painted a sign. It said, "Christmas Farm." Then they built a stand, and they bought fags 50 dozen. At the end of summer, they put up a second sign. It said, "Trees for sale." Some people came in August to choose a tree and tag it. Some came in October. More came in November. The most came in December. All month, Wilma and Parker were cutting and carrying and sledding trees and making change from the money box. They sold 356 trees. Then a family who had a Christmas tree lot in the city came and bought another 210, filling their big red trucks to the top. At last, it was time for Parker and Wilma to choose their trees. That night, across their yards, Christmas twinkled. Far away, too, in rooms they never saw, in places they never knew, 566 trees that Wilma and Parker had grown wore lights and bowls and tinsel in their branches. Green balsam branches that smell the sweet smell of Christmas. Back on the hill, the 29 trees that were not chosen began winter again. Parker told them they would grow tallest, for people who wanted tall trees next year. By spring, new green would appear where each cut tree had been. One tiny sprout would become a new trunk. The trees would grow back on their own. But some sprouts might be crooked. Some might be chewed. And there was room on the farm to start more. So one Saturday night, each eating a donut, Wilma and Parker filled out an order for 83 dozen new seedlings. Then they waited for spring. The end.